I did on a couple. That's what I did on a couple of the presentations, is just put down the club I was before, changed a couple of the slides, put a little bit of information that made it more personal to them, and it worked out really well.
Because obviously there's different time frames too. One time you may have 15 minutes, another time you may have a half an hour. So you've obviously got to do it for length too. So no big deal.
Yep.
Okay, let me see if I've got my agenda somewhere on the computer showing, and I do. Okay, let me bring that up real quick. Let's see. Get rid of this guy here. Come on. Yep. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December 7th, the day that will or has lived in infamy, SEQP Telecon. Got a couple of things in the schedule today. Not a big agenda, as you might expect. It's near the end of the year. Things are starting to wind down a little bit. But there's still a lot going on. Ed's got a couple of PR topics. Make sure we cover. I've been working on the scoring for the Gladstone Signal Spotting Challenge. I can give us some numbers on that. And then just a reminder of kind of what our schedule is going to be for the end of the year and for the beginning of 2024. So Ed, is anything you want to pick up?
Yeah, I'll try to be quick because I know this isn't long today, but just for those who were sort of in and out on the calls and not on last week, is that we've moved 3 press releases over the last really 2 weeks, I guess. One on the Highly of Physics publication, the other on the Virginia conference that Gary and Nathaniel attended. And also the longest of the 3 is a sort of a summary of the quote unquote findings coming out of the annular eclipse. Thanks to everybody, particularly on the 3rd, which was beyond my pay grade in terms of putting it all together. So I needed a lot of help in getting it done. It's up on the HamSci site. It's also posted like on, I think Amateur Radio Newsline moved it. Certainly Ham Radio press releases have picked it up. QRZ's also picked it up. It looks a little different no matter where you look at it, because unlike other releases, this had a lot of embeds in it. Okay, and in working with some of the sites, they chose to move it around and make it look a little different without losing the overall context of it. So, and Mackenzie obviously moved them as it looked. Okay, in terms of looking at the HamSci site. So anyway, kudos to everybody who got it out and helped me get it out. And I think we've really got a good story to tell there. So the second item I've got on my list just basically goes to an action item from last week, and that we talked about the fact is that the holidays are nice, but time flies, particularly when we're looking at April 8th and ahead of us. So we've got a lot of publication deadlines to be able to make, to be ahead of, obviously, the publisher schedules for April 8th. So I reached out to Becky Schoenfeld at QST last week and got her deadlines regarding what they need, not only for QST, but also for National Contest Journal, as well as on the air. Gary's already put together a piece for CQ, which will run early in the year on a May CQ's deadline. And then, Ron, I think you're working on Spectrum Monitor as well, too, I think, right? In terms of where we are on that. So
I'll be starting that probably right after Christmas.
Yeah,
right now,
I know we're good, like in the February window, that type of thing.
I'm just maxed with work into the year. Everybody's getting surgeries, and it's just kind of crazy right now.
Yeah. So so those pieces are on the schedule, and obviously those are the fixed publications that we're sort of worrying about to make sure that we don't miss the deadlines on there. Obviously, I'm looking at Gary here, but obviously QST and National Contest Journal will be the 2 real key items, because we don't necessarily have content matched with the dates yet as that. I did speak last night because last night was the ARL PR committee. I did do a dog and pony as to where we were, because obviously they're partnering with us on that. And there's obviously a lot of support as well. We'll be front loading a lot of the stuff as we did last time in terms of the publications, the bulletins that ARL does as we get closer to the eclipse. I'll be using part of December just to sort of keep it out there to the PICs and PIOs, and also do invitations for presentations if you've got a club or organization that wants a presentation, obviously coming out of the new year is to get us on the schedule. So, and I obviously am getting a lot of help from the PR committee on that as well. Other than that, I'm just sort of looking here, PR committee I mentioned. We've got a couple of presentations already set up for January and February. Mackenzie's done a great job in terms of social media, in terms of keeping up with us on all the things that we need to do there. The only other item, which I don't think came up last week, it may have come up in passing. It's just, you ever see an idea that comes ahead of you and you choose to jump on it. I think we mentioned a little last week about observatories, okay, and partnering together with ham radio clubs. So I bounced the idea off the Binghamton Club, because Nathaniel did a presentation there, I think about 2 months ago. And also we've got a couple of people from our club who are up there now, living up there. And they jumped on the idea of working with the local observatory and actually, maybe doing something jointly with the ham radio club as well as the observatory. And, their feedback is actually, they sort of called it observatories on the air, that type of thing. Sort of, coming up with a different name to partner with it. And actually their thought was that it really becomes a possible good leverage item for us from a PR standpoint, because if the weather's, obviously, the astronomical side of it gets all the PR, simply because it's once in a lifetime you look up and everything else. But if the weather's not good, what do you do? Okay. And so to have a good relationship with a ham radio experiment, keeps people sort of current with what's going on, and also generates a news item, because obviously reporters, particularly in smaller markets, are going to jump on the fact that here's the local observatory. So Binghamton has committed, okay, to working with us on that, and actually sort of like maybe putting together something that looks like just like a quick newsletter to share ideas if we can get other observatories and ham radio clubs on board. I spoke with the guys at Addison County in Vermont who partner with Middlebury College. They, a lot of the guys use the college as a venue for their meetings, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. And then lo and behold, last night at the PR meeting, Scott Yarney, N8SY, I think, who's the new Great Lakes director, mentioned the fact that he's got a relationship not only with Dayton, but Dayton has an observatory, right? Which Mary Lou, I think you mentioned as well, right? So, so he's going to follow up on that. Suddenly we've got three. I'm down in West Palm Beach for a couple of months, over the winter. They partner with the Cox Science Center, the local club down there. So, I mean, so we've got a chance at least putting four together without doing anything, and just in terms of working together. And then from there, I think if we put a list together of observatories who are on or near, sort of the totality path, is that we could link the clubs, let them know what we're doing and see if we can do some outreach, and maybe we get a little bit more PR just through the partnership that way. So I think, but our thanks to Binghamton for jumping on it. And actually, I mean, they think it's a really great idea, and why doesn't everybody else do it? So maybe we'll take a shot at it that way. So I guess that's where I am so far here, this week. So yeah, Steve, I see Steve raising his hand.
Yeah, can I interject here?
Sure.
I'm totally new to this, so I hope this is welcome. But I wouldn't limit it to observatories along the path of totality.
Yep.
Because all these other guys pipe in internet feeds and invite people to come to their observatories anyway. And so you could also couple in with those folks.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, that's exactly the point, is that, obviously Middlebury's pretty close. They're about like 95, something like that. Obviously Dayton is 100%, Gary, right? Because they're on the total line. And then Binghamton, I think, is pretty close as well. So there's our stars. I mean, the outlier right now would be West Palm Beach if they played, because I think they're about 59 or 58%. But nevertheless, I mean, that's the target. Again, obviously that, it's a lot of work to do a lot of lookups to see who would match the total line that way. But I think, and we've got a little time over the holidays maybe to take a shot at it. And if it goes somewhere, we grab it. If it doesn't go anywhere, at least we gave it a shot. So we'll see what happens. Thanks, Steve, for that. It's real good thought, because I mean, yeah, if you're 20%, I don't want to do it either, that type of thing. So
yeah, that's a good reminder too, because my 6-decade-old brain, I think of telescopes and pure optical observations where you've got a lot of glass lenses and mirrors and things, but not with CCDs and cameras and all that stuff. You're right. You can make an observation here and send it over there, and it's around the world. So you got a lot of flexibility there. I mean, that observatory idea makes me think too. We've got one east of Cleveland. Geauga County has one, And it's called Observatory Park, and I have a feeling they'll be doing something. And we've got a couple of radio clubs out there in Geauga County, so I may
Yeah.
try to get a hold of some people out there myself, and put the bug in there or let them do it, but at least give them the idea if they haven't thought of it already. Maybe they're on top
Yeah,
of it. But that's
and
a
the
good
thought
point.
last night at the PR committee meeting was it's just a good chance for a club to do some outreach, in a situation that they might not necessarily do. So, so you take advantage of the opportunity and hopefully they'll follow on it. So anyway.
So, yeah, as like I said, the point is, if any of us want to participate in doing that kind of stuff, like Bill was at the Balloon Festival last year, that's fantastic.
Yep.
But if you're aware of something that's in the area and you got local clubs, again, just throw the idea out there. They may pick it up and run with it,
Yeah.
and then we get the benefit. We all get the benefit, because the problem is when you talk to some people about ham radio, they go, "Oh, people still do that,"
Yep.
And when there's 700,000 of us licensed here in the United States, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
good to keep
and
it
I just
front of
remembered, I
mind.
think I won't bore you but I think I've told this story back in 2017 when actually we first met Nathaniel. Is that our club we were close to, I think, like 96% total. And one of the guys in our club had a solar telescope and he brought it down. We advertised it around town. There's about 40,000 people here in town. And we had a line of people that wanted to look through, like an hour ahead of time, because I've never seen the sun through a solar telescope. And then from there, we brought a lot of people into the clubhouse and talked about the SEQP. So it was a real good opportunity to sort of cross-fertilize people. Obviously, it was August and it was a nice day, but you can replicate it. So.
Yeah, and especially up here in the north along the lake area and stuff, the chances of having clear skies, even though we're in the path of totality, are slim and none. So, or maybe about 25% really. So having an alternate activity, along with, whatever else may be going on.
Well, the Indians/Guardians are still playing that day, right?
Yeah, exactly. They'll be scraping snow off the mound on April 8th. That's usually what happens. Clear the field.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah, Ron.
Is there enough time in the meeting for me to ask Ed a question, or would you rather I do it offline? Are we tight?
No, go right ahead. We got plenty of time.
You sure? Okay.
Sure.
Hey, Ed.
Yes.
I just wanted to tap into your expertise. I may be asked to write another article on top of the Spectrum Monitor article. And as I'm starting to write different articles now, some for club newsletters and some for like Spectrum and who knows, maybe I'll even get into QST or something. Where the topic is the same, where do you get into things like being careful that a magazine doesn't say, hey, wait, this sure sounds an awful lot like the article you wrote for us, and now we're seeing it somewhere else. And do you see what I'm trying to say? I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Are there copyright
that's a real good
things?
point. In fact,
how much can you just take the exact same thing but reword it, and how careful do I need to be?
Yeah, you need to. I guess and actually, I think Becky sort of addressed this in sort of our conversation last week, because obviously a lot of the stuff is sort of replicative of what we did early on, and obviously their partnering opportunity hasn't changed. But her point is that, I mean, you need to work in some relevance, regarding what's changed over the last couple of months, but also sort of the urgency and why it's important to participate. And obviously from there you can work together a lot of a lot of the content that you've put together before, because don't forget, your audience is never static. There's always people trading up, trading down, people who are looking at your publication that didn't necessarily look at it a couple of months ago. And if you look, I see Mary Lou, get your finger up, is that, also when you read a lot of long takes on stories, is that sometimes you see the same content a little bit buried further down, over a couple of articles, and that's okay. But Becky was really quick to say, it didn't matter to her if we replicate some content, as long as we can keep it relevant and refresh a bit of it so that it works that way. So Mary Lou, over to you.
Okay, so in professional circles, now they're getting really strict. No, you may not do that. You may not self-plagiarize. You must change your own words every time you write an article. And often the introduction should be exactly the same.
Yeah.
This is what the ionosphere is. This is what it does.
Yeah.
Now, what we did differently this year is blah. No, you got to change it around. So you have to get good at restating your own words so that the AI cannot pick it up as being plagiarized. So it's very annoying. Another thing you can do in a more casual sort of journal is change things in the order.
Yeah,
And
move
that-
stuff
that-
around. That's the point. Yeah. So
and that helps you to, in your own mind, change the words a
Yeah.
little bit. Also, you should change the pictures.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
we will, because we'll have different graphics. So that, I mean,
Yeah,
that's not
and
a
I
problem.
got that. It's
Yeah.
just as this whole new world of opportunities and growth for me, professional growth and personal growth. And now all of a sudden I'm getting asked, hey, we saw your name. Can you do this? Can you do that? Or could you put something in our club newsletter? And now I'm doing, Spectrum Monitor, CQ, and stuff like that. I just want to make sure that I don't do anything that even comes close to unprofessional, or this really is not a good way to do it, or QST says, hey, we just saw this in CQ. And so I just want to make sure that everything I do is absolutely unreproachable and is the way it should be done. So
Yeah,
thanks,
you're on
Ed.
target with that. So
Thanks, Ed and Mary Lou, for that
yeah,
feedback.
so I guess the other point, not to belabor it, but obviously we've got the agency doing some outreach to a number of consumer publications and media like CNN, that type of thing. If I used an example like Scientific American, they didn't necessarily work with us this last time, but if they had, and we were looking to replicate it again here, for obviously for the April eclipse, is Mary Lou, your point would be well taken, because then it's a professional publication, not necessarily the same as a consumer / trade association publication like QST is. So there's a little bit, there's a little different level, particularly now with AI picking up a lot of that stuff. But clearly, it's not a scientific paper, which is an entirely different genre. Okay, and certainly, I mean, I don't work in that realm. I've always worked in the consumer realm. So anyway, yes, go ahead, Mary. Yeah.
So something that some people find useful is, and it's because many people are very visual. So they would look at a publication and say, oh, there's these 4 pictures. There's people around some apparatus. There's a picture of the sky. There's some people at a desk, whatever. And there's a crowd scene. All right. Make those all different every time you do it, because some people will just pick up on that and not care about the words being pretty much the same. But if they see the same picture, they get all bent out of shape.
Yeah. So all good. Yeah.
Thanks to the two of you. That was very, very helpful. I appreciate your time. Thanks, Gary, for letting me ask that question.
So yeah, and as also in terms of our publication, as we're also looking at IEEE Spectrum, and I know Nick is going down that path and well in terms of being able to help us out. So, but anyway, that's where I am. So over to you.
All right. No, I
Okay,
think
there's
Ron,
Nick.
that
Sorry,
was
Nick.
Gary.
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, Nick.
Gary, can I ask a quick question of Ed?
Sure.
You were
sure.
talking about these press releases, on the HAMSI website.
Yep.
Whereabouts, please?
I'll show the screen in a minute when I
Okay, good. I will look out for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know she had the last post up. So yeah, we can go back. So all right.
Okay.
Yes. I think that's obviously a good question, Ron, because I'm sure other people had it in their minds too. So when you ask something like that, you help everybody out. I mean, the other thing to think about too is sometimes there's these things that are, I would call newsworthy, and just like an event that happens on a local or a national scale, 20 different newspapers are going to write articles about it. But of course, then you got different authors and different takes on it too. So we can all cover the same item, but yeah, we got to do it a little bit differently. So it makes a lot of sense. On the other hand, when you're doing, of course, the club presentations, repetition's fine, because I use the example of a comedian. A comedian travels around the country, makes 20 stops, and he tells all the same jokes. So, of course, they're his jokes or her jokes. So maybe that's a little bit different.
There you go.
Who knows?
So anyway, thanks for the time. So
no problem, Ed. I think the one gap we've got right now is something to put in QST. If people have thoughts or ideas, they want to express it here, that's fine. If you don't want to bring it up in front of the group, you're more than welcome to send it to me or to Ed or something like that, and we can discuss it offline too. But it's a lot of fun writing articles for those publications that help you out. They've got very good editors, and in some cases, you actually make a couple of bucks for doing it too. So there's a little bit of a gratuity involved, so nothing wrong with that. One of the things I'm thinking about for QST is I'm not sure how many years we've discussed since we've discussed the GRAPE and the Doppler project. If that's only been a year or two out, I don't think we want to do it again. But if it's been quite a while, It may be interesting to have some of the folks in the grape side of the ham side world discuss some of their observations. So maybe I'll put that to the to that group next week. Okay.
Boring, right?
Oh, one other thing too, especially for you, Ron, I will send you something too, is one thing Nathaniel's asked us to be a little bit more diligent about is crediting some of our grantors, I guess you'd call them, the people who are providing the grants to do a lot of these activities. And in the past, we've not been that diligent about mentioning them in either our presentations or the articles and that sort of thing. So we're trying to follow up with all that stuff. So just as a reminder, Ron, I'll send you something and you can use just word for word, flop it in there and see how it goes.
So
Yeah,
something
Gary?
I've done, something I've done when I give talks on astronomy to astronomy clubs, the last slide is always, thank you for listening and thank you for your tax dollars. You got to really tell people that their tax dollars have funded the James Webb Space Telescope and the Hubble Space Telescope and all this neat stuff. And thank you very much. Thank you for NSF and NASA for giving money to HamSci.
So Gary, so last spring when I wrote the article for CQ magazine, when he was critiquing and helping me to improve, that was a very strong lesson that Nathaniel taught me. And the first one I wrote, he was like, "Where are the acknowledgments and this for the people that have donated and have given money to it?" And so I wrote that in. And then the next version, he said, "This is not enough detail. When you have people that sponsor and give grants, you have to do this and this and this and this." And he really, in a very nice way, but I mean, he really put me through the ringer on anytime you write, you do this. And so you'll notice on the articles I've been writing that is a copy and paste so that I get exactly the way Nathaniel wanted. But that's the only thing that I copy and paste. But boy, that part I got told and taught very strongly to make sure I include all of that. I learned that pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's true. I was reading your CQ article a couple times in the last few weeks as I was working on mine, and there was a big sidebar near the end of your article covering all those organizations. I do recall that now. So yeah, you're well aware of that, so I won't have to bother with that again.
Oh,
but
no,
even
you
in
do.
some of
I wasn't saying that. Do anything you want to help me improve, please feel free. I was just chuckling as I remember that, oh yeah, this looks good, Ron. Have you ever written anything before? No. Okay, well, this is pretty nice. Oh, I like this. Ron, where is the grant information in big bold? And I was like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. He was like, yes. And so kindly, but it was a good learning experience. He very definitely let me know that whether it's CQ magazine or something even more professional, that I always need to do. And so that was a great learning experience.
Yeah, that's been a little bit top of mind for me too, because some of the documentation on the great projects, he's asked some of the guys who wrote that stuff up, the people that wrote that stuff up, to put those paragraphs in there, and then we've been replacing what's on the website. So you're going to start seeing that on some of the how-to documentation, how to build a grape, how to program a grape, and other projects. So we're catching on pretty good. So good. That was good discussion. One of the things I want to mention before I forget is that the HamSci workshop we all know is coming up in March. The local organizing committee has been hard at work, mostly the group from CASE. And in fact, we met, I think it was Monday or Tuesday evening, and we're working out some issues. And they know we've got to start thinking about collecting abstracts and all that sort of stuff. So anyhow, the HamSci workshop is moving along. The team led by Nathaniel Vishner is hard at work, and I think we'll be in really good shape.
Are we planning to Zoom those sessions, Gary, or are they just in person?
No, I think what's his name from Ham Radio 2.0 is going to be there again. So we'll quote unquote broadcast them again.
Okay.
That was great. That was a great experience last year. I bet you guys do another great job again.
So, okay. So let me jump over and share my screen again and talk about our one of our events from back in October. So I started working on some of the basically the data collection part of the Gladstone Signal Spotting Challenge. Of course, if you remember, that's where the folks were working at Whisper and FST4W and some of the digital modes, mostly transmitting, some receiving, and that sort of thing. So we've had some of the entries, some of the folks actually operated on different modes or multiple modes. So we had total of 69 entries, and I think a few people missed their entries, and I asked them to go and re-enter. So that number may go up a little bit. But just to look at the numbers a little bit, there were 65 that entered using Whisper, 9 from FST4W. Hopefully we can improve that ratio a little bit in April, and a few other modes and a couple of folks even on CW. Probably had skimmer nodes or something running up. But the interesting thing was, though, we've been focusing on the Eclipse and being a North American and whatnot. We've got to remember Hamside definitely has an international reach. So out of those 69 entries, the bulk were from the US and Canada. But if you look at the other countries represented, Australia, Portugal, Switzerland, the UK, Japan, Brazil, Costa Rica, Bolivia, Norway, and the last one, Reunion Island, which I'm not sure everybody knows where Reunion Island is, but it's far off the southeastern coast of Africa, off near Mauritius, in the Indian Ocean. So we've got an entry from literally not quite the antipode, but it's pretty much the other side of the earth from us. So that was kind of neat to see. So anyhow, I've been going through and people send in extra files. There's a lot of neat photos and a lot of station information and stuff that's been collected. It's I'm trying to organize, and then we'll get to the task of working through the Whisper and reverse beacon net files and pulling out the actual numbers from that stuff. But anyhow, that's gotten started. And that's what I'm really trying to focus on for this month, is getting that stuff going. Okay, back to our minutes. One thing, I guess, whoops, I got at the bottom down here, future education topics, expanding our participation, greater reach into the community. It's been nice to see we've had a couple of folks join the Hamsci Google group, essentially joining Hamsci in the last couple of months. And these people are educators, some at the high school level, some in college, community college level too. But we've got a lot of folks reaching out to us saying, hey, you guys are doing, it looks like you're doing interesting things, and maybe I can bring that stuff into the classroom a little bit. Not sure how to do that, but just keep in mind that that possibility exists. If people have, some of the, like a Dave Swartz, who's active in a grapefruit, have some experience, especially in the secondary education realm, they maybe help us to do some of that. Stop. Ed, do you want to mention the big grant that the ARDC just gave to the ARL, because that's kind of an education involved thing as well that we may be able to play into a little bit. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you all saw yesterday the league made a major announcement, and I've focused on the details. I know it's a lot of money, and I know it's for a decent period of time. So, and ARDC has been a really good partner, obviously not only to us, but also, just I think a lot of organizations over the last couple of years. So, and actually, obviously it's a lot of money. It's a good cause. I'm looking at Bill here. Bill, I guess you got a little bit more background yesterday as well too, right? I've heard bits and pieces, from the PR committee meeting, but and saw the press release. But in terms of its impact, maybe you could talk a little bit more about it.
It was a total of $2 million that will be spread across 3 years. So it's a significant amount of money, just year by year. Hey, divide 3 into 2, you get nearly $700,000 a year. Even technicians can do that, like me. So this is a great opportunity, and and the application, the granting of the money is reasonably liberal in that if people can put together, like HAMSI has done over the years, an excellent proposal, the probability of getting that money is extremely high. So it's well worth the effort. We have a local group here, Rocky Mountain Ham Radio, that got a grant of $200,000 to do a microwave-based backbone up and down from El Paso, Texas, all the way up into Wyoming. Completely apart from the internet, although it's accessible from the internet. But when the internet goes down, and it does a lot in New Mexico, we mark the cables so that they know where to dig. Get down in there and dig up the fiber optic cables. So this is completely independent and great for MCOM. So yeah, let's keep our eyes on that because there's a lot that can be done. And the last Eclipse was a good example. I'm looking forward to being in Dallas and staying home at my in-laws where it's safe.
Hey,
Bill?
yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gary. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just had.
I was going to show the grant thing on the screen real quick to make sure everybody's clear on what we're talking about.
And Bill, it's great you brought up the Rocky Mountain example. Desiree Backus, I don't know if you know her, you know, is on our PR committee, and actually she used that as the example in terms of what they've done with ARDC money. So yeah,
they're extremely generous, and they got to get rid of the money.
Yeah,
it's a sad position to be in.
Bill, when it says scholarships, to my mind, that means helping somebody with college expenses or educational expenses. So when it's scholarships, that wouldn't be like for example, at the Rocky Mountain convention that we're having a couple of special forums on the future of ham radio and how to help bring it into classrooms and things like that with some of the radio clubs. But is that like a scholarship or scholarship just for education? Did help?
No, scholarships specifically for education to support students who are related to amateur radio, typically licensed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, can I jump in with a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just had a question about that. Do we know, I know in the past, ARDC, you know, did do some scholarships themselves. Are they going to forgo all of that to the ARRL? You know, is that strictly going to be handled through the ARRL, or will ARDC still continue to do some scholarships themselves?
Well, this specific $2 million will be handled by ARRL.
Right.
But again, they've got tons of money to get rid of, so I would not be surprised to see ARDC do it directly. They prefer to have the ARRL do it because of the size of the organization. So many representatives, a huge field organization, of which I'm a part as the section manager, we're in touch with our locale and much more knowledgeable of what's going on out here, and hopefully able to motivate and encourage people to submit grants. We had one, in fact, I'm going to be in Los Lunas, New Mexico this weekend for the ARRL 10-meter contest, and one of the participants in the little group of 3 of us, his wife is the principal at a middle school, and they got $5,000 to put together a station and a program and have a bunch of kids who will be licensed in January, but they're already getting on the air with a control operator and having a lot of fun. And their lunches are broken into 2 separate events, and they have kids from each of them show up at the station to get on the air. You'll often see Kilo Charlie 5 Oscar Uniform Radio spotted at noontime, and that's kids getting on the air with a club call sign.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's something that I hope to have going here within the next year anyways at one of our local schools. So good information to know. Thank you very much.
So I think the thing to take away from this ARDC grant is it's focused around education, using clubs of many different types to get more young people involved, STEAM learning, club station improvement, as Bill was just saying, that type of thing. And we're going to find more details in 2024. So I don't know that we can speculate too much about how it's going to work, but when we talk about doing this Teachers Institute and that sort of thing that the league has been doing for years, maybe at some point in the future, HAMSI will be a topic in that Teachers Institute. Who knows?
Yeah.
So all I'm asking is people kind of put your thinking caps on, especially if you got some experience in this area. And HAMSI does an outstanding job of bringing people into the fold who generally have some technical background, not always, but most of the time. Or willing or can easily pick this stuff up pretty quickly. And we're not as good as reaching out to the broader community and picking up folks that are eager to learn and want to learn, but just don't have maybe the technical background, whether it's in engineering, science, mathematics, or astronomy and whatnot. So if maybe we want to grow and put our arms around a bigger part of the community, this may be one of those levers to do that. Something to think about. One other thing, I'll get back to Nick's question of a few minutes ago. Nick, if you just go to the HAMSI site, the main homepage, if you just scroll down, Nick, you'll see there's three articles, and these are the three recent press releases. There's one from Monday, one from Tuesday, and then one from last Saturday. So in each one of these things, if you hit the read more, you can get the full text of the press release. In fact, this one at the top just has the text, but when you get down to the bottom, you can see Ed's handiwork and everyone knows it helped them out is all available there too. So
yeah, okay, and that's the main HAMSI page, not the Solar Eclipse page.
Right,
That's
just
correct, yeah.
hamsci.org. Right.
Okay.
That's correct. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, that about covers the stuff I think I had on my agenda. I'm going to look at it real quick. Yep. It's about covered what I had on my agenda. Is any other questions or other topics for discussion?
So Ed, yeah, I'll bring one more thing up again. Like I said, I'm in the process of getting a meeting together with a local school down here to try to get ham radio, incorporated into their curriculum and also, as a club. So I'm sure everybody saw my misdirected email that went out earlier. The questions that I was trying to get to with Nathaniel was basically, I've been involved with the SEQP just a little bit, not too much. I haven't been involved at all with the other stuff. And I don't know how that relates to SEQP or, what's going to happen after April of next year, as far as, HAMSI and what everybody's going to be involved in. And at that point, hopefully I'll be in the beginning stages of getting things started at the school. So how we could actually get students maybe involved somehow with some of the HAMSI stuff. So just something to bring up. And I just wanted to pose that question to you guys to see if you had any answers for me.
Well, Randy, you kind of asked the $1 million question. I think for about the last month, a month and a half, most of these Thursday afternoon calls, we've been talking about what things we might work on after the eclipse, and we've been discussing a few things, but we don't really, I wouldn't say, have any answers yet. I mean, some of the HAMSI projects like the Grape 1, the Doppler receiver experiment, that's going to go on ad infinitum into the future. That could last for years. Those are little receivers that run 24/7, 365. And though they do get some interesting data around the eclipse, the Sun-Earth interface is always moving. Things are always happening, and there's always interesting data we can collect, and then people in the future can analyze based on those Grape receiver systems. There's plans for improving that. Plans for creating more hardware and software on a little bit more sophisticated scale. That's what in the past was known as the Tangerine software defined radio. It's been redesigned a little bit, and they're calling it the Clementine, I think, now. So there's definitely things that are on the horizon, but we're also open to ideas, and we're definitely interested in having discussions in those areas.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that's all I'm looking for. Nothing specific, but just to know that you're going to be doing something and not closing up shop for 10 years, until the next eclipse. That's good to know. So, definitely, I look at this as a great opportunity, for the schools themselves to get involved, and, a big plus for the kids to get involved with this. All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Yeah, this is actually, sort of a continuing question. The thing is that, after the data gathering, which happens during the eclipse, there's going to be a whole pile of signal processing. And, I'm not sure, how much, sort of high school students or whatever could contribute to something like that. But there will be a heck of a lot of activity still going on in terms of, trying to make sense of all that data that's being gathered. I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure how well, some of us will presumably be trying to contribute to that. Obviously, it's a professional activity as well, and an academic activity, but there's, bound to be, some other interesting things that pop up there in terms of, like, how do you make sense of all this stuff?
And
I thought, anyway.
Yeah, I don't recall, Randy, were you on the on this call last week?
No, my work schedule has been pretty busy lately, and I haven't been on here for probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want to repeat myself or repeat. Nathaniel had talked last week about he'd written some software that takes some of the data that the Grape One receivers have pulled off the air. And what he used the term, he sonified the data so that you can actually listen to what's happening in the ionosphere through your ears. And I think that's the kind of stuff that would interest students, because they can relate. Maybe they can't understand how the ionosphere works, and maybe a little above them, but when they can listen to things, who knows? And there's other experiments, not necessarily under Handside's realm, but there was a good presentation of the workshop last year where there is actual some project, and I forget who's running it, where they're doing exactly that. They turn the data into sound, and they basically ask the general public to listen to the files and pick out certain characteristics. And that's kind of the first pass of combing through the data, which gets back to what Nick was talking about too. Sometimes you really need professional level analysis, and other times the rest of the world, the rest of us, can get in there and help. So we definitely, I think the future is bright, I guess, is the final message.
And what sort of age are we talking about there, Randy?
Oh, it's high school.
As far as high school goes, I would imagine that you'll have all sorts of people who are extraordinarily computer literate, who could actually, run with an amazing amount of stuff. We'll just give them the opportunity. It's just figuring out what it is that's going to turn their cranks. Okay.
Right. And, those are things that I think, could all be determined later. Just as Gary was just mentioning, I think that would be something, obviously, that could be presented to, like a school club or a school class, and, they could come together and, maybe come up with, some type of data that could then be brought back to HAMSI. Obviously, you wouldn't want 1,000 people bringing back their own opinions, but a group like that working together and then maybe coming up with something, just as one example of something that they could do.
I think it all comes down to exposing them to new thoughts and new ideas and new way of doing things. And I suppose it's the case too. If you expose 50 students to it, maybe 5 or 10 of them will really run with it, and 3 or 4 of them will end up in college and make it a career path. Who knows? So, but that's how you get started. You got to start with a bigger group, I imagine, and see what sticks, so to speak.
All right. Thanks again, guys, for your input.
No problem, Randy. Anytime. Okay, any other topics, any other questions or comments before we call it a week? Oh, Mary Lou's got one.
So this is way off the beaten track. This involves not a high school student, but a first grader. So my grandson in first grade, who's 6, was very excited to get an SEQP card. So we had those cards. So I gave him one, and this is what he gave me in return. So evidently you can trade one of those for Pokemon cards if you know the right person. Thank you very much, Gary.
You can never go wrong with a Pokemon card.
All right.
I tell you what, my grandkids will attest to that.
There you go.
Yep.
So make some new cards for the new Eclipse, and then maybe I'll get another one.
That's right. But which will be the most valuable collectible in 10 years? That's
Yeah, maybe we'll need to put a little Pokemon decal up in the corner of the SEQP card.
Maybe I should start.
We can really go after the younger generation then.
I should keep some of those SEQP cards in a plastic sleeve, maybe. Who knows? But so
this is Ed. One of the things that it takes a lot of effort, but for older high school students and undergraduates, it would be to get like a mini workshop together, and actually in a session with a group, small groups, actually work on processing the data afterwards. I find that when people are brought in, now it takes somebody who actually understands a fair amount about the data, but when you do that, it draws people in. I was involved with a project many years ago in undergraduate college, where we did a project over several weeks in marine studies, in oceanography, and almost 50% of those people changed their majors for graduate school to oceanography.
So it does work. A lot of food for thought.
This is Bill. I have a former student who was just a teenager in a licensing class I taught at Traverse City, Michigan, who now works at the Naval Research Laboratory. And it began with his dad being a ham and him getting licensed and finding out, ooh, technology is cool.
Yep, all those, it takes a little spark sometimes. That's all we need.
Was that a pun?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. 100-year-old pun, but it's a pun. All right, if that's it, we'll call it a wrap. We've got one meeting next week, and then we're off for 2, and we'll get started in January again, because by then Ed's schedule is going to have us rolling on presentations and ham fests and all that kind of good stuff too. So
as busy as I have been with work, I may or may not be here next week. If I'm not, an absolutely wonderful Merry Christmas and holiday season to all of you, my peers, colleagues, mentors, friends. And if I'm here next Thursday, then you'll hear it from me again, and you'll have to sit through it twice. But really, absolutely the very, very best to all of you and your families.
You too, Ron.
Yep, you bet.
Thank you, Ron. All right, everyone, we'll call it a wrap for this week. We'll kill the recording and say 73, and everybody have a good pre-holiday week. Don't spend all your time shopping. So
there you go. Good meeting, Gary.
All right, 73 all.
Thank you.
Good,
Very
luck
Lou, see you in the morning.
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah,
Good luck.
10-meter contest this weekend. That's right. Thanks, Bill.
Good luck in the contest.
Yes.